I'm delighted to be here today. Thank you very much, Hello Tomorrow, for welcoming Sycomore for the second year in a row. My name is BETAVITA. I'm responsible for sustainable and responsible investment at Sycomore Asset Management. And today we're here, gathered now to grant the Impact Award to a startup. So we've selected 3 finalists who are here with us today and who you will hear in the next hour. We're gonna learn more about their businesses and about the environmental and social impacts that their business models have. At the end of the session, a panel of leading technologists and investors who are here with me today will grant a 5,000 euros prize to the winner of the category. So why an impact award for startups? Well, the world today is plagued with environmental and social challenges, be it rising inequalities, access to education and health, rising average temperatures, air pollution, and so on and so forth. So the UN has even put a number on what we need to invest in order to tackle these challenges by 2030, which is between 5 and 7 trillion US dollars per year. This is a massive amount, and governments and NGOs cannot do it alone. So we need innovative, agile, and solution-oriented, mission-oriented businesses to deliver some of these environmental and social solutions. Why is an investor like Sycomore Asset Management supporting this initiative? Well, our job is to invest the money that savers put aside, be it for their retirement, health coverage, into companies that will perform well economically, but that will also be there and thrive tomorrow. And we're deeply convinced that the companies that address environmental and social needs will be those companies that will still be standing tomorrow. In parallel, startups need funds in order to hire talents, develop their products and services, and continue innovating, invest in research and development. So there's a good match between us as investors and the startups, and I think it's a good start of the session.
Hi, my name is Daniel Becerra. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Buffalo Grid, a company bringing mobile power and internet connectivity to rural communities. We are on a mission to connect the next billion people. Over 1.2 billion people don't have access to electricity, and out of that 1.2 billion, 700 million have already access to a mobile phone. So the problem is worse in India, where over 300 million do not have access to power, but already have access to a mobile phone. And that's over 4 times the population of the whole UK is struggling every day to charge their mobile phones. They facing different situations, from completely off-grid villages where the nearest power will be hours away, to most of the places where we operate, which is what we call grid edge, communities that will be connected to the grid, but power is still quite unreliable and can be gone for days. Addressing that pain, we created the Buffalo Grid Hub. The solar panel generates electricity that is stored in the batteries within the hub. The hub is connected to the internet and has a screen the size of a mini iPad that is a portal of communication with these villages. We provide them for free to local entrepreneurs. These local entrepreneurs will provide the services of power and connectivity to their fellows in the village, and we share the revenue with them. Our market, it's all these new smartphone users that are getting their phones in these rural communities. Over 45% of them already have a smartphone, And we expect that by 2018, 80% will have a smartphone. India is the fastest growing group of new internet users in the world. This is the hub. We have designed it over the last 4 years. I mean, it's been a process that we started with a bicycle generator. Now we have this solar power internet-enabled hub that is connected all the time with us. We can monitor them remotely. It's completely sealed. It has to deal with these tough environments. It has a lifespan over 3 years when we only need to replace the batteries that we're constantly monitoring remotely. And it can be connected as well to other sources of power. One of the key things is that we operate in these grid edge villages where there's connectivity, but nobody knows how much power is available. So we can plug our hubs into the village, get power whenever it's available, and as well monitoring that power. So it's all about data collection in these places and in this market that very few people know much about. We have great traction. We have charged over 250,000 phones, and that's just in 20 villages. So this is the scalability that this product has. Hubs generate revenue in around £100 a month that allow us to pay themselves within six months. So it's a very commercial and sustainable operation that we can scale pretty fast. We're now starting to sell these devices to networks that can help us distribute and scale much faster. We sell the hardware, we sell the software, we sell the service to deploy them, and the partners get a new offering, a market intelligence, and a marketing channel to reach these communities. Our users will get cheap or even free power, an internet experience, and a sustainable service that will allow them to get connected. I was yesterday, for instance, at Tech Refugees, where as well we look into deploy them in refugee camps and across Sub-Saharan Africa and Southeast Asia. There's a massive market opportunity there. We have a very strong team with experience in frontier markets, in software development, hardware development, and a startup experience in India as well. We're supported by Microsoft, Innovate UK, and the European Commission, and the seed fund comes from Local Globe and Kimba Ventures, so really well backed up to make this a reality. And it's, I mean, we have received lots of press and awards, but for us, the story is like Anita that makes it really worthwhile. With the income that she had from Buffalo Grade, she was able to open a second shop and triplicate the household income within a few months. And that's us, Buffalo Grade, bringing power and connectivity to where it's needed the most. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Daniel. Let me turn to my to the fellow members of the jury and maybe hand in a microphone. Does one of you have a question?
Yeah, to be very concrete about impact. So what do your customer or the final customer do with this connectivity?
Right. Well, so for us, it's about enabling more services. Our hubs, it's a connected hub into the villages, and they can access from remote medical diagnosis to educational content to plain entertainment, which is what most of the people want. So they can as well get a first experience, because again, we're dealing with very bottom of the pyramid markets that will have a smartphone but will not have a data plan. So for instance, with the screen, we show them what they could do with the internet, and then they can get connected, experience it for the first time, and obviously will get hooked on and hopefully will become more data consumers and get connected.
Thank you for the presentation and congrats for these great projects. I'm wondering, so there are a few companies that try to do like that to tackle this market, like of connectivity and access to power in the unconnected places. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering, based on your research of the market and other solutions, what's your like distinctive features, or like what have you noticed that doesn't work so well in terms of the impact you can have, or deployment or scaling, that you try to tackle specifically with? Yeah,
certainly. I mean, we start with microfinance schemes in Sub-Saharan Africa, which is what most of the companies looking into the energy hungry problem specifically have been dealing with, and we see a massive crunch on that loan approach. There's a lot of default in the ecosystem, and people are just not paying. And whenever they actually manage to pay the system over 2 years, they need to replace it. So there's a massive fault on that business model. There's companies going around the connectivity part. I mean, from Google doing hotspots in train stations to other companies doing Wi-Fi hotspots in urban areas where they use a cable connection to provide that, but I haven't seen, other than a company in East Africa, one doing in rural communities, but that's about just the connectivity. So we merge both. We merge the power and the connectivity and create a platform for many more services to reach these communities.
Can you assess the risk that at some point the people will get direct access to the solar energy because the price of solar individual solar cells is really decreasing? So is it a threat to your business model or not?
No, not at all. I mean, we're working in villages where people can access the power from the grid sometimes, right? We still have a massive market where people need power on the move. I mean, I have access to power all the time, and my phone needs a charge by this time of the day. So we see a lot of people just using as access to power. But for us, the power is the low-hanging fruit. What really excites us is the whole potential of services that can be enabled thanks to our connectivity and our power that we supply to our partners. Because as well, just from the GPS location, these villages don't have a street name, don't have a number in the household. So having a GPS location enables logistic services and many more things. So it's just, the power is just the low-hanging fruit at this stage.
Does it mean that you plan to offer, for example, access to health, distant health services?
Of course, of course.
Okay.
I mean, it's not something that we're developing, but we enable partners to launch their services from what we provide.
Could you say a little bit more on the local entrepreneurs? Typically, who are they? In your business model, how much will they earn per year? How does it compare with the average local wages?
Of course.
And what do they get beside this in terms of training, empowerment?
Okay. So first of all, we rely on existing networks of trust. I mean, as we provide equipment for free, we cannot give them to anyone that comes along and asks for it. So we've, in India specifically, we partner up with Vodafone. So they provide us with a list of agents that are people that are selling airtime and SIM cards already for them. They already engage commercially with the community. So they have a shop of some sort that will have this commercial approach. Then they get the hub for free. And they start generating revenue from the first charge. We pay them every 2 weeks. All the payments are completely cashless. So customers send a mobile payment to get access to our services. So we can monitor all that completely with transparency and accountability. Then we share that 40% with them. Usually means that they get around 40 to 50 pounds a month, which in most of the cases means that they double their monthly income. We train them in the use of the hub, and then, well, they are the first ones to have access to all the things that we provide.
Do they already have access to power, or?
Sometimes. I mean, in many locations, it's again grid edge, so the shop will be connected to the grid. But again, the power is unreliable and inconsistent. So that's one of the other things that we want to monitor. It's really interesting how the Indian government can call a village electrified if only 20% of the households have access to the grid. So it could be, it's not an impediment, but yeah, that's the sort of situations that we're facing.
I'm curious about how you manage maintenance. If like one of the device breaks or needs to be repaired, or like, are the local entrepreneurs, are they able to maintain it themselves? Are you working with local partners? Do you do it centrally? How fast can it be repaired?
Yeah. So yeah, that's whole part of the logistic operations. The units are completely sealed. they're built to last, but of course something could go wrong, but we monitor them remotely. So as soon as something goes wrong, we know that it went wrong, and then what we do is that we just replace it, because we own it as an asset. So from our warehouse, we just send a replacement that can be within hours to the shop. The service continue, and then we take that and fix it.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Welcome. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Kristen and this is Tarun, and we're co-founders of Saathi.
Hello.
Hi.
Would you be interested in using a personal hygiene product that causes rashes or irritation? For guys, this might be the difference between a high quality and low quality razor. But for girls, this is a reality for most of the menstrual hygiene products that are available on the market, especially in India. Women are interested not only in comfort, but also in a product that does not contain harmful chemicals or plastics, so that when they're disposed, they can degrade within months, not years. Other products on the market with health benefits are expensive and not compostable. We want women everywhere to have access to a product that's high quality, rash-free, and sustainable. At Saathi, we're passionate about sustainable manufacturing, keeping the 3 Ps in mind: people, profit, and planet. And we want everyone to be able to have access to this sustainable experience. We've already launched the product, and we've been in the market for the past 6 months.
We are making world a better place. Are we? Let's figure out. Company is a different thing. People behind them are a different thing. Innovation, technology can make a difference. But a major difference also can be done by the people behind it. How they think, how they want to proceed with the technology, what they want to do with it, what they want to commercialize it, make a profitable business, or do something very impactful with keeping the profit in the mind as well. Saathi was founded by 4 people, having different interests, but a same vision. Sustainable development, providing menstrual hygiene to underprivileged women, giving back to the society what they are getting from them. In India, menstrual hygiene is a big taboo. Women are not allowed to go to the kitchen. Women are not allowed to sleep in the same bed where men are sleeping. Women are not allowed to touch their infants, their kids. They cannot eat and drink from the same pots that other people are doing. They do not have a normal life during those days. A 7-year-old kid once went to his grandmother and asked that why my mom is not able to, kiss me on my cheek and touch me as she usually do. Grandmother realized it's because of the periods. Religion doesn't allow us to let the woman touch the kids and do the normal activities during the periods. She realized this is a bad thing. It's unfair to the infants and the kids and to the women as well. She fought for it and she made it right. So the kid didn't have it throughout his growing time. He grew up to be one of the founders of this company. When I founded this company, my mother told me, this is about right time. You change it in your house. Now you go and change it in the world. So yes, we are making a difference. We'll let you know how we are, what are the impacts we are making in the society.
So we'll start with the social impact. The reason that we're bringing sanitary pads to rural areas of India is that only 16% of women in India are using sanitary pads. And so the lack of access to pads also affects both their education and their ability to work because they don't have access to a basic need. This is why our business model is structured such that we would be selling both in the urban areas as well as the rural areas. We would be selling at a premium in urban areas in order to cover so that we can sell the product at cost in rural areas through NGOs. And we'd be working with the NGOs to do awareness campaigns as well. As for the environmental aspect, traditional sanitary pads are 90% plastic, which means that 350,000 tons of waste annually is created in India alone. And this is, again, with only 16% of the population using sanitary pads. So this is enough physical waste to cover 1/8 of the area of France. For the third aspect of our impact, we're providing additional income to banana farmers through our supply chain, where we're sourcing our raw materials the banana fiber is an agri-waste material, so the banana farmers typically would throw them on the side of the road, and we're able to provide them additional source of income by purchasing that for our product and upcycling it. In addition, we're also employing low-income women in our manufacturing facility, and we will continue to do that for the future.
We have started a 1 million pad project with Ekal Vidyalaya to distribute 1 million pads throughout the rural Jharkhand, where they will be provided on a subsidized cost from the profits we are earning through the urban sales. This is the urban packaging where we sell it at a premium cost. This is the rural packaging. There's no difference in the product because rural people doesn't need a fancy packaging. We are providing in a simple packaging, but the same product. I would like to end this presentation with a note that you don't have to lose the purpose to be a successful business. You can always maintain the purpose and the profit together. It's just going to take some time, but nothing is impossible. Thank you very much.
We were discussing the product before, and we were wondering how scalable it is if you're not close to banana plantations. Have you already looked into this? Or?
Okay. As of, if we talk about India, India is the second largest country in the world for producing banana, only with the 4 states inside. We haven't even gone through the other 28 states which are left and have a huge potential for the same. Banana grows over 8 months and can be stored. Other thing is, in India, somehow it's not used for livestock. The potential of the fiber hasn't been industrialized or haven't touched to it. In South Africa, yes, they store for livestock. That's a different case. Mm-hmm. But India, with the 4 states, right now we are planning a scale-up of 80-fold from where we are. And with the same 4 states, we can go to a 500-fold scale-up plan.
Okay.
I am an engineer, so I want to understand the process and to understand how you can have a clean material from these banana fibers.
Okay. So banana is naturally pest-free. It doesn't have impact of pest because of its natural properties. It doesn't get any kind of microbes, even if it is thrown out, chopped off in the landfills. We have a community of farmers, a cooperative community, where we go and monitor the quality, monitor the fiber every time, and we have a certain way to process it. We make sure that it's cleanly washed, as other fibers like bagasse and everything have a residue of sweetness, which is sticky. If you talk about jute, it is itchy. Okay, if you talk about cotton, it is not pure white, or there are seeds left inside. While in banana, there is only lignin on the fiber, which is there. It is a 70-30% ratio. We just have to remove the lignin and make sure that it's washed cleanly with the water. We even reutilize the water for the same banana farming in the fields. So there is no waste of water, the fiber is good, and we keep every batch of the fiber which reaches a factory goes to lab for the testing for every sort of microbes, toxicity, and those. And we make sure that no chemicals were used in the farming, so it doesn't end up with the chemicals at our production line.
And what is your patent related to?
The patent is related to processing and the product. The whole processing of banana fiber converting into a highly absorbent pulp, which is 1.5 times absorbent than existing pulp.
And can you expand it to other kind of products, or it's only related to?
So we have other products in pipeline, which are other hygiene products like diapers, big menstrual pads, pads for older people who are in the hospital on the bed, which cannot move a lot, and all the hygiene products. It's the difference between them and this is the amount of banana used. Rest the technology is same. You can replicate it for all the hygiene products.
And what's your distribution strategy? Do you already have interest from retailers and like distributors?
Yes, we do have interest from distributors and retailers both in India and abroad. We get requests daily. Right now we're only selling in India because we need to get certifications in the US and in Europe to be able to sell there.
And are you aware of like any consumer packaged goods company wanted to tackle this same kind of idea, and how open would you be like collaborating with those?
Do you mean like a FMCG or?
Yeah, like P&G and
yeah.
companies
So
like that.
we are in talks with some of them, like people from P&G and Johnson & Johnson. But at the moment, we're a bit small for them to kind of take interest in terms of distribution or that sort of thing, but we definitely are working with them.
Do you have to get an official authorization from the administration or the health agency or whatsoever?
Yeah, so in India, we only have to meet the BIS standard, which is a national standard, but there is no certification as such. Whereas in the US, we would have to have basic FDA approval.
But we, instead of that, even in India, we have all the lab testing done from a third party to make sure that it doesn't affect the user in any negative way.
A question on the production. So, who is involved in the process? You mentioned low-income women. So, could you elaborate a little bit on how many people you think you could, let's say, 3 years down the road, provide a job with this?
Okay, if you talk about farmers, we have more than 8,000 farmers who are doing banana farming. The stem is not utilized for anything, so we can provide the machinery to extract that fiber and get an extra income. If you talk about women's, at a scale of 500-fold, there is a huge amount of product which is going to be coming out. We will be needing them for packaging and everything. So we have already trained staff of 12 people, 11 women and a supervisor working on the same thing. We'll be increasing that to 3,000 if we go to that scale. Sorry, 80-fold, and if we go beyond 80-fold, we haven't calculated those numbers as of now. And if you talk about the distribution in rural areas, to reduce the cost, what we do is provide through them NGOs. NGOs have self-help groups, women who are working, going day to day to the other women to talk to them and provide them the product. So they have an extra income for coordinating us to the other women in the villages instead of providing them to distributors who are just going to use for profit.
Maybe one final question. So I think that's what's very interesting also is the cross-subsidies model that you've got between the urban areas and the rural areas that are poorer. How interesting do you think a large FMCG would be into keeping this business model? Not just into the product itself, but also into keeping this innovative, strong social impact business model?
I think they would be really interested in keeping it because, again, there's a huge untapped market in the rural areas of India as well as other countries. And so I believe they're also trying to get to the rural market. And we believe that the most effective way to do that is, instead of doing B2C marketing, is to go through the NGOs who already have the personal connections with the women in those villages, because they need to have that connection in order to promote a product like this, which is very personal. So they have to run awareness campaigns, they have to do training, they have to really understand how to use the product as well. This is not just something where, like maybe a toothbrush, or even toothbrush, you might have to say, okay, this is how you use it, but it's very personal, so people aren't very open to talking about it as well. So it has to come more from people.
If you talk about, I have something to add. If you talk about economics, why a big FMCG will be interested? As of now, they are selling the products which are not good, but they are profiting them for sure. But if you talk about our product, at a scale, it will be a very cheaper at cost. So they'll still make the profit with subsidizing them. So they won't have a problem. What they are looking forward to is having a profit. And it's not just about selling the product and getting profit from the selling it, but the distribution cost will be cut down to reach the rural villages. That's why only 16% of women are getting it. The 84% is untapped because there's a huge amount of logistic cost involved in sending those products to the rural areas. They are not having any knowledge, they are not having educations, which only can be got through NGOs. And big corporates are not interested in wasting their time with them. But we will be opening a whole market, and we can be their rural partners for getting through the rural market.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
What we see here is a public transport ferry operated in state of Kerala, India. So there are 10,000 such ferries there. So in 2013, the government who's operating faced an interesting challenge, or a big problem, you can say. It is not air pollution. It is not even water pollution either, which damages the water, which affects the fishing community. It is not even noise, vibration, or smell of diesel, which is a typical issue in diesel ferry boat. But the biggest problem for them was the cost of operation, right? The daily cost was more than the revenue they were getting from a very subsidized transport system, which is essential for a country like India, where water transport is used by mostly the poorer section of society. So they threw open the challenge. Can it be solar at nearly same price? Right? So obviously we took up the challenge. And when we did that, there were people in the industry who claimed that it is not possible. Right? Carrying 75 people on solar is beyond my imagination. So these were some of the comments we were facing when we were building the boat. Why did they say that? So the reason is obvious. You can't just take a simple boat and convert to solar. You have to transform the design. It has to be half the weight, for instance, right? You have to redesign the materials. You have to reduce the drag by 1/3 by optimizing underwater shape. You need a much better powertrain, which is efficient, reliable, rugged, and marine grade. Only if you have all these three things, it can be solar. Right? And that is what we achieved, what we did. And the first boat was inaugurated in Jan this year by the Minister of Power and Kerala Chief Minister. And for the past 10 months, it has been operating. And in this spirit, it's operating from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. every day. In this period, it has carried 400,000 people. And it has traveled 14,000 kilometers without a drop of diesel. Right? So this year, it will hit about 500,000 people mark. It will save 35,000 liters of diesel. Right? So that's the boat. And it is a very clean solution. It's a green solution. And I'll tell you how it is also a cheap solution. Now, from the sustainable goals point of view, we are addressing 5 of them, right? 5 of these goals, primarily because there is no fuel, and then there is no pollution also, right? Very specifically, from a climate action point of view, this 35,000 liters of diesel means 94 tons of CO2, and 8 tons of all these noxious gases like NOx, SOx, hydrocarbons, carbon monoxide, and particulate matters. Since we are taking 80% energy from the sun, it's a far more cleaner transport solution. And since there is no diesel, no lube oil, which means there are no dirty bilges which are usually thrown in water, so the water on which operates is maintained. Right? But the most important is from a cost of operation. That $110 become 2.5. Right? This is actual data in the 10-month operation. And that means the transport system is sustainable from an economic point of view as well. Right? So this translates to about $37,000 hard cash saving for the transport body who is operating it. But we are about 20% more expensive today. That is because we don't have the scale. So when we are building the 20th boat a year from now, it will be same price. Nevertheless, it's still a cheaper boat in the total life cycle cost, right? So this solution can be replicated not just in India, but in rest of Asia, Africa, etc., as a transport system. So what we are trying to do is primarily to replicate in India. So we are already building 3 more boats, right? 1 for the same client and 2 for a hotel group. But we are also addressing different application, a bit more challenging application, where the cargo is a bit more heavier than passengers. At least passengers was an easier problem, at least in hindsight. Right? So the cargo is a bit more trickier. So we are addressing that Ro-Ro ferry first. And the right extreme is commercial shipping, which I think it's at least 5 years away. So, but we are still, that's there in our target. So having seen the success of Aditya, our first solar ferry, we believe that there is no reason why anyone should be building diesel ferry boats. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Perhaps a question on the technology. So you mentioned that powertrain is specific, underwater shape also. So could you elaborate a little bit on really the specificities and what makes you special? Okay. And if there's any kind of competition that you see coming on this?
Yeah. So clearly, we have not invented something new. We have made a new application of all available technologies. So one key aspect as far as the design of the boat itself, we spent about 2 years to design, both the underwater shape and the structure. So today somebody starts, they can achieve something in 2 years design. The lithium battery is an available technology. It is, again, the marine grade is a bit more trickier, which we have done it over past 2 years. It takes 2-year effort. By the time somebody comes with a solution 3 years from now, which you need 1 year to build the boat also, we would come up with a version 2, which we will come even now, which is at least 20% better. So our objective is stay ahead. That's the only way we are going to. And obviously there are so many boats available. I don't mind even if there are 3-4 new players in the market. But yeah, we have done it. Others are yet to try it and do it. So yeah.
Could you be more precise about your business model? You're just designing, design and manufacture. You also can rent the boat. So what is your industrial plan?
Okay. So our company's core competence is design and build as of today. So we sell the boat to the client. But there are some inquiries on whether we can operate as well. It is primarily because even though you have an actual boat running, they still want to know, okay, whether it lasts 5 years. So if we are okay to transfer that risk, so we can operate for a fixed cost per kilometer. For us, it is just 10 paise per kilometer. We are okay to do that. Only issue is then we have to build the boat to get some assets in our balance sheet or in a separate financing company, which we are exploring. We are exploring actually.
Traditional ferries are quite unstable, and many of them unfortunately capsize. Can you, have you tried to assess what would be, how many lives would be saved by switching for that kind of boat?
Yeah, so fundamentally, the first slide I showed is a traditional boat, which is single hull. And our boat is a catamaran, 2 hulls joined by a platform. Catamaran are far more stable than a conventional boat. So if as you rightly said, most of the accidents are because of overcrowding or overloading, right? So in our boat, you put as many people on the boat as people can stay, which is 4 persons per square meter. The boat is not going to capsize because it's far more stable, just being catamaran. So catamaran is stable boat. That is the way the world should go, whether it's solar or not. Catamaran is a way for public transport.
And how many people in your company and among your key suppliers?
Yeah, so we are a 35-member team, engineers primarily. So the manufacturing is now outsourced, except the core part, which is underwater shape, which we control in our facility. The rest all is done outside, which is what we will do eventually also, as we have to scale up in all over India to begin with. We outsource all the major parts except the core part. And we have some 3 major suppliers, one even from France actually, who are one of the leading suppliers of EV control systems. So our objective is for the main core areas, get the best in the world. That is how you can prove that this is very safe and reliable. We don't compromise on any small areas because we are for the long haul.
What is the difference of price between your traditional boat and your boat?
So it's about almost $75,000. So it's about 2.5 years difference in price today. But 1 year down the line, it will be same. When we get scale, we have done 1 boat. So when we're doing the 15th or 20th boat, it will be same price. Because we don't have much leverage with a lot of suppliers. We'll get there.
Where are the electric engines made? On the same question for batteries.
So the battery, the supplier is from Valence. They are the ones with marine grade approval certification. So we build electronics on top. The motors is a French company actually, Leroy Sommer. So a lot of core technologies come from France also.
And you mentioned that with less pollution, also it would have a good and a very good impact on the people that are living from fishing, for example. What do you think should be the penetration rate of such boats to have a real impact? Because I'd say that only 1 boat doesn't change that much overall.
So the key here is the policy maker to start believing such a boat is possible, right? So unless that is there, they can't make a policy that all closed systems like lakes, which are closed systems, you should not allow such diesel boats. Like for instance, Lake Geneva ideally should not allow diesel boats, as an example. So once we prove, we have already proved it. So now our thing is we are trying to say, okay, you should not allow the diesel boats on closed systems or drinking water systems or ecological sensitive areas. If it's a policy, it's a straightforward, very fast to implement. Otherwise, it's 1, 10 per year, 20 per year, 100 per year. It will be a slower process, I agree. But any boat eliminated has an impact. So to the extent of 35,000 liters and at least one person going into the water.
One final question.
Yeah. Some of the most successful solar panels company keep ownership of the panels, and then they pay themselves back from the revenue that or the savings that the consumers make. I'm just wondering whether you had thought of of this model, and what made you choose selling the boat instead of having some financial.
Yeah. So when we were building the first boat, nobody was taking us seriously, so we didn't get any partners. Today, we are working closely with Panasonic for our next boats. So today, they are taking us seriously, and we are working at all these options. But to the specific option, what you mentioned of financing the solar panel itself, the panel cost is very small compared to the boat cost. It's not worth it, but battery is a good option.
On behalf of the jury, thank you very much.
Thank you.